Well, local public broadcasters, including community radio and TV stations, are facing significant cuts. Congress agreed to claw back more than $1 billion in funding to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It was President Trump's request. Only Republicans supported it. It means local stations that provide free music, programming, and information are now even more reliant on donations. Here's Evan Watson with the story.
On this Friday, you're in tune with All Classical Radio, connecting communities through music and the arts, and regularly serving 250,000 listeners around our region.
An independent Pacific Northwest staple for more than 40 years. But with a presidential request and a vote from Congress, All Classical Radio just lost 10% of its annual operating budget, about $500,000.
That rescinding of funding is catastrophic, not only for All Classical Radio, but for so many stations across the nation that rely on this funding to ensure free, accessible programming for all, regardless of your background, your means.
Suzanne Nance is All Classical Radio's president and CEO, now needing to reassess programming, staffing, community outreach, and their 24-hour children's network.
We'll look at what we're doing. We'll have to make some cuts. I'm pretty sure some difficult choices and difficult changes. But again, the hope is that we emerge stronger in the future and that we continue to serve this great community.
On Thursday, Congress agreed to President Trump's request to cut billions of dollars for public broadcasting and foreign aid, money that lawmakers already approved. Republicans framed the cuts as targeting waste and abuse, while criticizing large public broadcasters like NPR and PBS. But more than two-thirds of the government funding for public broadcasting goes to smaller community TV and radio stations like OPB and its regional partners.
Stations that are in more remote areas are more heavily dependent on those federal funds. So they are the most impacted. The smallest stations are being hit the hardest.
OPB is losing about $5 million in funding, close to 9% of its annual budget. President Rachel Smolkin confident the public will recognize the value of local news and information.
We are leaning into the work we do at OPB. We believe this is a moment to be bold, to really lean into our public service.
All Classical Radio and OPB get most of their funding from donors and other sources, not federal dollars. They're both asking donors to help fill this new gap.
And what I would say to the community is a heartfelt thank you for sustaining us this far and for digging deeper and for going on this new journey with us as we evolve and we adjust to this catastrophic change.
Well, Evan Watson joins me now. Evan, we have been talking a lot about funding cuts this year, but these ones are different.
Yeah, this is interesting. This is the first time in decades that Congress has approved a rescissions request, essentially from the president saying, here's what I want you to do with the money. And typically, Congress doesn't like to do that because that's conceding their power of the purse, something that they guard very tightly. But these are funds for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting that were already approved by Congress that they're saying, hey, we're going to go back and give that up again. Yes, Mr. President, we're going to follow your request. That's what makes this different.
So, Evan, who is hit the hardest here?
Oregon stations are in a better position than many when it comes to this because they receive more donations than other stations across the country when you're looking at classical radio or public broadcasting like we just talked about. But rural stations in smaller communities, Blair, are really what's most at stake. One analysis said that there are 100 stations across the country serving millions of rural Americans that could be at risk of shutting down, going dark because of this lack of funding.
And we know President Trump and Republicans have said cuts like this are needed to remove waste at the federal level while also criticizing content from NPR and PBS. So will these cuts save a lot of money?
Yeah, ultimately the $1 billion or so that's cut from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting here represents about 1/100% of the funding at a federal level. So not a lot of money on the grand scheme of things in terms of making a big dent in that deficit or saving a ton of money long term. You would look more at the content side of things over the just flat out savings of waste and abuse if you were to try to nail down the reasons why.
Okay, Evan Watson, thanks so much.